We're back with editor of SWAT magazine, Denny Hansen. So, have you heard about this white paper from the ATF?
I have. It was quite the bombshell.
Yeah. I had to read it twice because I wasn't quite sure if I was actually reading what my eyes were actually reading.
I know. The number 2 man in ATF wrote the paper. It wasn't supposed to be for general dissemination, but it got out. I found it interesting that it was written on January 20th, Inauguration Day.
So why would you find that interesting for those who can't read between the lines?
I think there's a new sheriff in town.
I definitely have sensed a bit of a culture shift. Or you know what? Let me take that back. A bit of an emboldening. I think for some time now, we in the gun community have kind of been on this kind of defensive edge where we're almost ashamed or a little worried to kind of speak out, especially people in federal positions, people who are in government positions, not necessarily being emboldened or feeling empowered to kind of speak out on what they would maybe consider pro-gun stances with respect to firearms. And I think now with President Trump in the White House, we are in a situation where there's almost a strengthening of the notion of the Second Amendment. And everyone's kind of re-energized around that fact. And now we can, like I've said before, go on the offense.
Yeah. Well, Ronald Turk, who wrote the white paper, he said that it's time for the Senate to confirm a new ATF director and one that will go along with the Second Amendment and the administration, which... that's something in the white paper that really shocked me.
Yeah, no, I know, especially considering, just the rhetoric that have been coming out of a lot of the federal agencies has been vehemently anti-gun,
Yes.
almost to the point where it hadn't really very much tried to hide it. And of course, you had the figureheads who would kind of speak out and use this soft, colorful language to kind of hide the fact that they're anti-gun. But it is, like I said, it was almost startling a little bit. Like I said, I couldn't really believe what I was saying. Now, it is just an opinion piece. It's not something that's binding of any sort. But nonetheless, it does speak to what I think you were alluding to as a bit of a cultural shift in these federal agencies.
The way Ronald Turk ended that in his notes, he said that we want to limit registration and to continue to protect our Second Amendment rights while protecting our nation, which was, and to hear the number 2 guy in the ATF say, we need to, protect our Second Amendment rights is, it was surprising.
I mean, for an agency that has been touted as enforcing some of the most non-logical, non-common sense measures when it comes to firearms, it's interesting how much of a common sense approach he took in these papers. And
it really is. ATF has a bad rap with a lot of people. There's a lot of good agents I've run across in my career and here. I recently had a compliance check. And lady comes to the door. At 8:10 in the morning, I'm here for a compliance check. I'm not even fully caffeinated yet, right?
Yeah.
And, I said, "Oh, is this gonna take a long time, or is it gonna be fast and furious?" And she about fell over laughing. She thought that was the greatest thing she'd heard in some time. But
I know there's a lot of people watching this like, what is so funny? That's an inside joke for you people who don't get it. But it's I agree with you. I do think in many ways we tend to take the figureheads of the agencies and then it just and we trickle down hate to all the rest of the people who are there within those agencies and slightly lower positions in terms of not being the figurehead. And so I always did wonder how many people in the ATF looked at some of these regulations, because I had a friend who he was an ATF agent, really great guy, really good friend. When we went to law school together, and what was interesting was he tended to sway a little bit more anti. And it was interesting kind of having a back and forth conversation with an individual like that, because here he is, he's an ATF agent. There's a certain legitimacy that I guess comes with that. In my position is always being argued from a place of common sense. But I always felt like there was a lack of some of that common sense and the reasoning and the rationale of why he was against essentially citizen gun owning. And I remember when I was taking the bar exam, I mean, he basically took the bar exam with a Glock 26 strapped to his ankle. I thought that was kind of cool. I was kind of upset because I couldn't do it myself, but I mean, he was a federal agent, so he had the ability to do that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there are individuals who agree, and then some who don't. But I guess at this point we are dealing with somebody who is in a leadership position in the ATF, espousing some very, very pro-gun rhetoric that we've been preaching from the towers for years and decades now, and
Sure.
it's very refreshing, incredibly refreshing to hear.
You know, there's a lot of difference between the people at the top who get the national coverage, going back to, you know, we want to bring together the cop on the beat and the man on the street. The popular media likes to speak of national organizations. Well, they endorse these bans. The rank and file don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same way in most of the ATF agents I've met. What some of the administrators might believe, they don't, and they enforce the laws pretty fairly.
Awesome.
And consistently.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I think there's a lot of people who aren't aware of that, you know, so it's good for those people to hear that as well. Now, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Going back to the laws that are on the books and kind of dovetailing into national reciprocity is the Hearing Protection Act.
Yeah.
And there again, I don't know what would be put on that, but the white paper, he talks about deregulating them with no laws, you know, which would make the Hearing Protection Act moot if the ATF would actually deregulate it.
Yeah. And
you could go into Jim's bait shop and buy some next to the Slim Jims there.
You know, it's funny. It's interesting hearing people who aren't really involved in firearms hear the notion that, you know, we deregulate silencers. For a lot of people, they think they're illegal to begin with. However, what's interesting is they have a very hyperbolic understanding of suppressors
Sure.
and you know what they do. And I think a lot of the fear is unfounded. Not a lot of it, almost all of it.
So how many old movies did you see where they screw a suppressor onto the end of a revolver?
Wait, you can't do that?
Not gonna work. Sorry about that, Skippy, but
yeah, no, it's and the interesting is, it's like I've recently been shooting with suppressors when I've gone to the range. It's really hard to go back. You really don't realize how it's. I don't want to say stressful, because for me shooting is incredibly peaceful, but it's just a different experience altogether. It just makes it even more enjoyable, and I already enjoyed it immensely. So I really do hope we get to the point where we just deregulate the idea of suppressors or silencers, whatever you want, terminology people want to use. So yeah, I'm right there with you in that regard.
yeah, it would be great. It's long overdue. You look at how draconian the laws are in Europe,
Yeah.
as far as gun laws, and it's considered rude
Yeah, not to have.
without a suppressor there.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely, absolutely. So now with the Trump presidency, is your magazine planning on switching gears at all?
no, not
No,
really.
just keep going in the same direction. Like I can't think of any reason why you would switch gears or anything of that sort. But I do know there's a bit of there's a calm in the industry, so to speak, with respect, because you know, just we're so used to kind of this up and down, dealing with people constantly. It's almost, you know, this hyper aggressive defensive nature that we have, a reactionary, more so than just kind of going with the flow.
The SHOT Show was great this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the past years, I think I've only missed two. And so some of the glitter has worn off for me, but everybody was in a good mood. It's not, oh, what's going to happen now? And it was really refreshing to see.
No, absolutely. I'm not entirely sure how much political content the magazine goes into typically, but do you see it being more focused now on products in terms of now not having the net? No, see, I don't want to say that because rhetoric like that on my behalf kind of breeds complacency. But I felt like with the Trump presidency now, we're in a position now where we can start to focus on the actual item that we all enjoy and love to use, and then start kind of evolving those particular items. Do you think that now there's more room to kind of focus on the actual gun instead of the political side of things?
I hope so. One thing I've heard, though, is that, well, we're safe for at least 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, actually 2, because historically, whoever is elected, the opposition party takes control of the Senate and the House.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen this time, but I really hope President Trump can get some things done for us in the first 2 years.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Well, thank you very much, Denny. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I look forward to speaking with you again.
And thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay, bye.
All right. And coming up next, we're going to talk with Beth Bauman from BearingArms.com. And she got the lowdown on a really disturbing new documentary. Disturbing is a bit of an understatement, actually. We'll be back.